Hello friends, today we will talk about Matsya Purana. Matsya Purana, one of the Puranas which describes the first avatar of Vishnu. Out of the 10 incarnations of Vishnu, Matsya Avatar or the fish incarnation is said to be the first one. And we will also see how this story relates to the story of Noah as in the Bible. So, first of all, there are many variations of the story of the Matsya Avatar. There are many books, even Hindu scriptures. There are many different holy scriptures. Sattapada Brahmana is one, Agni Purana is another one, Bhagavata Purana is another one, Mahabharata is another book, and Matsya Purana. At least 5 different books talk about the Matsya Avatar of Vishnu. One interesting point is they all have variations. The story, the essence of the story is the same, but there are variations in the way how it is written, or the name of the persons, the characters involved could be different. In some cases it is Brahma who is involved in the story. In some other cases it is Manu. In some other cases it is a king, Satyavrata. So it varies. Yeah, the variation is due to the timing of when these books were written in history. So that is the variation. But first let's look at one topic, which is the great flood, and how Vishnu in the form of a fish did save Manu or Brahma or Satyavrata. So in essence, once it depends on the story again, either Vishnu or Manu or Satyavrata, it depends on the book which you read. So this main character was there and he was taking bath in a river and he got a small fish. The fish pleaded this personality to take care of him or to take care of it, so that it will help him in return one day. So the king took the fish, put it in a small pit and then to a lake, and then the fish had to be transferred to a big ocean because it grew very big in size. And one day the fish also, before moving to the ocean, it promised the king that it will do something in return, and as promised it warned the king of a great flood which will happen, and it instructed the king to build a big ship and get all the living creatures in it. And then when the rain started pouring down and when the floods came out, the big ship was closed and the fish started to pull this boat to a safety place. And at the end, the boat arrived at a mountain, and when the flood was over, Manu or Brahma or Satyavrata opened the gates of the big boat, and in this great flood everyone else who was outside the boat was destroyed, and only this personality was remaining. So this personality at the end came out of the boat, and then he started to offer some sacrifices, and then he started commencing creation of new animals or new progeny, or the whole human mankind. The mankind was then the offspring of this particular god or being. This is the story in the Hindu scriptures. In the Chinese religion, there is a character called Noah. Noah, also representing a snake goddess. In Bible, this particular character is called Noah. What has happened is, when this particular story came out to the Western world, or maybe to Greece possibly, they have seen the story, and then they thought, well, the story is good, true, but they couldn't equate the God to a snake, because the God was always God. How can he take the form of a fish? So they have substituted the fish with the God. So the whole story, as in Matsya Purana or the Matsya Avatar of Vishnu, was cut or edited accordingly, so that the occurrences of the fish character does not pop up at all. So substituting this story with God, we end up with the story of Noah. There was nothing intentional. The editing, as we read in the Bible, was not intentional. When you read it carefully and compare it with the other Puranas, you can see that the editing was done just to replace the fish with God. That's all. So when we read the story of Noah, what do we see? The same story. Noah was asked to get all the animals in pairs, and then they got into the ark. Noah had to build an ark instead of the boat, and then the boat landed in Mount Ararat. In the Hindu Puranas, it varies. Either it could be Mount Mandara or Malaya or Himalayas. Again, the Puranas vary because of the time at which they were written. But the story is one and the same. This clearly shows it was one God in the beginning. Now people have split this to make into different religions and gods. Anyway, what does this story tell us? First, is it a myth? Is it a real story? If it is a real story, it should be a real story, because you cannot have consistent versions of a same story all over the world. It's almost impossible. Maybe it's spread out, but there should be some reasoning behind. If it is real, where is that ark or boat now? Was it ever built? You are talking about thousands of years back. Mahabharata refers to it. Shatapada Brahmana refers to it. They were written thousands of years back. So, does that mean that our ancestors had the ability to build such an ark or boat? If so, where is it? Was there any flood? scientifically. So to answer these questions, first, the boat or the ark was never found. And now scientists say that, well, probably this is a myth. That's it. It's not science. It does not exist. Maybe you will never find it. Flooding. Okay, was the earth destroyed by water once in the past? Geologists have looked into this and they say maybe not. So, where do we go from there? Is it a myth? What do we do? This story does not make sense unless the real essence of this story is understood. Until today, there is no interpretation of this story. I'm trying to give mine, and I believe this fits. It should fit. And I leave this for the experts or the other scientists to verify or to comment, or the theologists to comment. It depends, because once you understand the story, it is a completely different game. I'm talking from the Siddhanta perspective. What is Siddhanta? We are a spark of God, all human beings, and we have the ability and capacity to become like gods if we are good. That's all Siddhanta is about. So, how do we approach this story, this great flood which has happened once in the past? This is there is a bit of science involved, so it might be boring for most of you. You might need to know a bit of the cell biology for this. In summary, this story is all about spermatogenesis, the way in which a spermatozoa is formed, the sperms are formed in a human body, and how it successfully creates an offspring. That's it, in simple words. I'll explain that. The germ cells in the seminiferous tubules of a human or male testis is the place where the sperms are generated. The germ cells which generates the initial spermatogonia are generated at the basal layer of a cell, on the topmost layer. Once they become big, they have to pass through a different layers before it enters into the center of the tubules. The center of tubule is called a lumen, and the sperms are generated at the outer layer here, and they move from this outer layer to the inner layer, and this journey is described as the fish being put in different places, because this layer, even within the cells, these are divided into compartments even nowadays: basal compartment and luminal compartment. Yeah, and the point which segregates these two compartments is called the tight junction. Yeah, it changes. So the spermatogonia will pass through these different places before it enters the lumen. From the spermatogonia, the first degree spermatocytes are created, and then the secondary degree spermatocytes are created. From there, spermatids are created, and after that a spermatozoa is created. These are the 4 degrees of a sperm creation in cell biology. Once these are created, then the flagellum or the tail portion of the spermatozoa is developed. The spermatozoa is said to be the boat or the ark which was created by Noah. If you read the descriptions of the boat, even there are some portions which talk about this. There are 3 compartments in this boat. The front one, compared to the anatomy of a spermatocyte, the first one, the top portion is called the head, and then the mid portion, and the last portion is the tail bit. The top portion contains the chromosomes and acrosome. I'll come to that a bit later. The mid portion contains mitochondria. This is the food which Noah is said to have collected for all the animals. Yeah. So on the top portion we have chromosomes, haploid set of chromosomes. When I say chromosomes, I'm talking about pairs. Yeah, if you try to look into how the chromosomes are structured, they are always in pairs. 22 autosomes and 1 sex chromosome, which makes 23 chromosomes. And this is the reason why in the Bible you will see that the animals are collected in pairs. Yeah? And then the sperm, once matured enough, starts its journey. In the Hindu versions, the sperm or the boat is supposed to be dragged or pulled by the fish, which is the flagellum. In the biblical version, since the story of fish has been omitted, the ark is not pulled by the fish, but the boat or the ark sails by itself. Flooding is the muscular contraction which takes place when a male and female unite and the sperm starts its journey towards the egg through the waters. This is the flooding. The sperm will have to undergo a series of difficult or very difficult journey before it reaches the egg. In the egg, once it reaches the egg, which is called as the mountain, in the Bible version it is called Mount Ararat, which is the egg. When the egg reaches, when the sperm reaches the egg, it has to penetrate the egg. This penetration is facilitated by the top portion of the sperm, which is called acrosome. Once it is done, this story is given in Hindu scriptures in a very good way, that there is a fight ongoing between Vishnu and another demon who has hidden the Vedas. Yeah? But this is not in Bible. So what happens is the egg is penetrated and the chromosomes are deposited or put into the egg to form a zygote or a baby. So this is the reason Why? We see that Manu or Noah was the first one, or let's say was the source from which the whole mankind was recreated. Because the whole of creation starts from one sperm entering into an egg and creating an offspring. This is the reason. And as soon as it enters the egg, the chromosomes are said to be sacrificed, or the animals, in the biblical version, the animals, because they are the genes which are said to be in the form of chromosomes in pairs, and they are the ones being offered as sacrifice to create new offsprings. In the Hindu versions, they call the passengers as Sapta Rishis, 7 great sages of different era, or yuga or kalpa, how you look at that, on which the book was written. So this is the story. Unless this logic is understood, the flood mythology does not make any meaning at all. There will not be any conclusion. One interesting point is, this was written a very long time back. How did the rishis know these things? There was no microscope in those days. How did they write this? How did they come to know about this? That is all Siddhanta is about. May God bless you all. Thank you.